and welcome to the Bullcast Podcast. I'm Court Winsett, and with me today is Cameron Spann.
Good tidings.
And also, we have back with us Dr. Jen Salisbury. How are you today, Jen?
I am great. Aloha.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about one of my favorite pet peeves today, which is the myth of passive income. I think we brought it up on our first episode with Dr. Jen. We are bringing it back up today because I love nothing more than beating this particular horse well past its death. There's no such thing as passive income. Any passive income source that you have, it's going to require some work. But anyway, we'll get into that later.
Unless you are a Hilton or a Kardashian.
Well, that's inherited income.
But it's pretty passive. You just sit around and get a big old paycheck.
So it might sound like sipping tea on a sunny day while your bank account grows, but the reality, it's only truly passive on your tax return. In real life, every income stream requires attention. Today, we are going to take a little bit deeper dive into what passive income actually means, how income is categorized, and how to stay engaged with your investments to make them work for you. As I already said, Jen is joining us again today, but if you've missed her previous episodes, she is a devoted Bullcast listener. She is the voice behind the podcast, My Life as a Landlord, and she is a seasoned pro in all things real estate. Having made all introductions and explanations, what am I missing? What is it? I can't remember. Without Katie here, I am struggling to remember how we even do this thing. What comes next?
This is great. We just jump right into the list.
Okay.
That's why our listeners are here anyways, you know.
Go into the list. Famous hustlers or side hustlers, famous side hustlers and self-made stories is the list for the day. Cameron, do you want to kick it off?
I would love to kick it off. And it's a shame the movie Hustle and Flow isn't on here because that has the name Hustle in it.
Literally has some hustle in it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I don't know if Jen knew, but the guy who directed that movie is a Memphian. But anywho, here we go. Number one on our list of famous side hustlers would be Julie Powell in Julie and Julia. That's a lovely little movie.
I haven't actually watched the movie. I'm not going to lie. I think it's got Amy Fisher in it, maybe? Somebody, not Amy Fisher. That's a...
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Gosh, what is her name?
Amy Adams.
That's it.
Okay.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So Meryl Streep and Amy Adams. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Julia blogs her way through every recipe in Julia Child's cookbook. And so it's cool. This film bounces back and forth.
From
Julia Child's,
Child
decades earlier, while working a full-time job. So she's doing this blog while working a job. What starts as a personal challenge turns into a publishing deal and a movie adaptation. Her success? Built on content creation, consistency, and a deeply relatable story. The royalties came later, but the grind came first.
Hardworking. Okay, this next one, I bet you are wishing that I had actually taken the first one so you could have the second one. No, it's not the same thing, is it? Chef Carl Casper, a fictional movie? A once celebrated chef loses everything, then rebuilds from scratch with a food truck with no PR budget. He relies solely on social media and word of mouth. This is grassroots entrepreneurship. He reinvents himself, reconnects with his passion, and shows that a side hustle can grow into a lifestyle, but only with hands-on commitment. I was thinking of The Bear.
Yeah, I have seen this movie, and the chef, Carl Casper, is played by Jon Favreau, who's a director.
Okay,
yep.
Yeah. I have not seen it, but I do recognize, now that you mentioned Favreau, I do recall that being a thing.
And I remember the specialty he made out of his food truck was Cubano sandwiches.
All right, next on the list, Jen.
I'm jumping in here. Christopher Gardner, that name isn't familiar to you. Maybe the movie that was made after his story might be more familiar. Will Smith played Christopher Gardner in The Pursuit of Happiness. This is a rags to riches story where he literally just showed up on Wall Street looking for an internship, and he didn't even have a shirt. He was just wearing pants. Just an absolute sheer determination story, a man and his son, and just an incredible, incredible story. It's one of those self-made stories that I can't even watch the movie anymore because I just get so into it. I'm just overwhelmed. I just can't do it. So yeah, Pursuit of Happiness, Christopher Gardner is definitely self-made. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Will Smith really gives it his all in that film. It's fantastic.
Oh, for sure.
All right, next on the list would be Joy Mangano from the film Joy. Are you guys familiar with this? Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I've heard a lot about it. It's got Jennifer Lawrence.
That's right.
Yeah.
She was great in it.
I think it was basically her follow-up to Silver Linings Playbook.
Yes,
So.
I believe that's right. But Joy invents the miracle mop. So this is a true story. While juggling single motherhood and financial pressure, she fights for shelf space, pitches to QVC, and overcomes repeated rejection to build a multi-million-dollar brand. Her empire may earn passive revenue today, but it was built on perseverance and relentless active effort.
I wonder if she invented that miracle mop before the days of Shark Tank, because that sounds like the kind of thing that would have done really well on Shark Tank these days.
Yeah, this was definitely
no
pre-Shark Tank, almost like door-to-door salesman. You were just trying to pitch this.
Yeah, okay. Well, next is not a fictional retelling or a movie or a book or whatever. This is just a guy, Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary Vee, as he is known, started by flipping garage sale finds on eBay and running his family's wine business. Then came Wine Library TV, early stage tech investing, and an empire of content consulting, books, and more. He is the poster child for hustle and a reminder that every stream of passive income was once an unpaid grind.
Ooh.
Gary Vee, I'm a huge fan. So in fact, just a quick side note, if anybody wants to know the ins and outs about social media, he wrote a book called Punch, Punch, Jab, I think. It is such a great It goes through the 7 main social media platforms. And even though it's maybe 6 or 7 years old, it is still a how-to book on basics of social media, especially for anybody who didn't necessarily grow up with the internet and grow up with social media. That's a great starter. Gary Vee is just a huge, huge resource. Anybody who's looking to level up in life, I always say, just watch what Gary Vee is doing. Do what he's doing, and you will definitely level up if you're consistent.
I see the book here. I'd never heard of it. Jab, 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 right hook.
There it is. Okay, sorry.
No, it's a really cool artwork on this book. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, no, it's a very good book. And he's got several others as well. Gary always says, he tells everybody that he's going to buy the New York Jets. Like, that's his whole thing. He's all about the New York Jets. I love it when people just broadcast what their goal is, and he absolutely does. Big fan.
This last one is actually a TV show that my son had me watch, and I do not like this TV.
Oh, you don't?
I don't like it.
It's highly crass.
Well, it's not so much listen, crass doesn't bother me. It's the fact that it seemed like at the end of every episode, when they just seemed like maybe they were going to get things going and it was going to be good and successful, something else would go wrong and everything would fail again. So it just got very frustrating for me. I like a little bit of a happy ending every now and then, and they were constantly just getting beaten up and failing. It was frustrating for me.
And the show is called Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. It was an HBO show. It's got the Pied Piper crew. It's about a group of guys who basically invent an app. They invent it in their garage. They have like sort of a think tank house that they live in, and they're all working day jobs, and then it starts to take off, so they start to put more and more effort into it. Kind of this take on like, oh, all of these, it looks all glamorous and everything from the outside. That's after the funding scale and IPO and the success. Early on, it's just a lot of chaos and pitching, and in their case, I think some drugs and just burnout and some all sorts of other crazy. And it's a cast of really, really extraordinarily quirky characters. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You like it?
Yeah. I like it. I got some good laughs out of it.
Okay. All right.
As a reminder, today we are talking about the myth of passive income. And I think a great place to start would be defining the income types, those categories that you see on your tax return. Mm-hmm. So we'll break these down, but you've got earned/active income, passive income, and portfolio income.
Yep.
So Court, what is earned/active income?
This is your wages. This is the stuff that you get paid by your employer. So it's the stuff that's reported on your W-2, or if you're self-employed as a contractor or something like that, somebody else pays you to do some work, you might get a 1099. The stuff that you get for your job, basically. It's earned income.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Jen, since you're the star of the show, you want to talk about passive income, the reason we are here today?
So passive income, I will always argue, passive income is only on your tax returns. There is really no such thing as passive income, but there is on your tax returns. And of course, passive income is business investments where you're not actually involved. And that could include some rental income, especially if you're not self-managing, right? You've got a property management, or you've got a company that does everything for you. So passive income, I mean, we're going to talk more about this here in a second, but that's another type that you'll see only on your tax returns.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then portfolio income, the third category, is dividends, capital gains, and interest from stocks and bonds.
Let's circle back to passive income. There's a lot of people who they will say, oh, I just want mailbox money. I want money to come to my mailbox every week, month, quarter, whatever it is. I don't want to have to do anything for it. And that's fine if you have a trust fund, or that's fine if you've got something set up that honestly, even if you've got something like, you want to quote unquote set it and forget it, that is still shouldn't be where you're actually disengaged. So let me give you an analogy. I was thinking about this going, how can I actually review this and put this in a day-to-day situation? It's very simple. Let's say you're driving your car down the highway and you want to drive a ways. You're going to drive across Memphis. You're going to drive across LA, whatever. And you just put cruise control on and then you decide you're going to go to sleep. This is the mental game that people say, oh, I just want passive income. This is exactly what they are thinking, going, well, you're going to put gas in something, you're put effort into something, and then you're literally going to completely disengage mentally from it and just let it drive itself, honestly, off a cliff, in a culvert, in another car. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, it just doesn't work. And so you've got to make sure you stay mentally engaged, which is why I know Court and I have talked about this extensively, going, passive income really is a myth. You can't just set it and forget it. You've got to make sure, even if you're checking in, because if you've got money there, even just a small amount of money, you want to make sure you are observing that. I know we're going to talk more about this here as we go through this, but you can't just set it and forget it. You just can't.
Yeah,
it doesn't work like that.
I like that road trip imagery because, if you are not engaged, you're going to end up like that iconic scene in Thelma and Louise, right off the gorge.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of folks who just think that if you get mailbox money, that it's easy. Mailbox money might appear easy because it appears in your mailbox, but what it takes to actually get that, it's not so easy. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. What should we talk about next? Different income at different levels.
The earned income thing, it's the most straightforward thing. It's the thing that if you have ever filed a tax return, probably the one source of income that the most people have ever reported is they have a job with an employer and they get a W-2 after the first of the year that says what all their wages were from that employer at the end of the previous year, and they have to file a tax return that reports those wages to the government. So that's your W-2 income. You spent time for someone else. They employed you and they had to report your wages to the IRS, and then they reported them to you, and you have to file your tax return based on the wages that were reported to the IRS. So employees are trading hours for a paycheck, limited flexibility, but you're not self-employed. You can't just make your own hours. Your employer is probably setting your schedule. Your employer is telling you what to do and so forth. But obviously that's a job. You got a job. You may have benefits. You may have health insurance, life insurance, whatever the job benefits offer. When people think, oh, I'm going to go out and get a job, that's what they think of.
Trading time for money is what active income is, whether it's you have a job or what we'll talk about next. Let's roll right into 1099 if you're self-employed or you're a contractor. And so you don't have a W-2, you've got contract income that you then have to report and pay taxes out of that. I really like this because contractors are entrepreneurs, and this is income because they're hustling. They are working it. They're working their business in whatever industry that is. So you could be freelancers, you could be selling items from garage sales on eBay like Gary Vee, small business owners, the bakery around the corner from where everyone lives. It's often glamorized, but guess what? That's a 1099 job. It's still income. It's from hustling. Yeah, entrepreneurial at its best.
Not only is it still income, self-employment income, basically. So you have different tax requirements when you're filing your taxes than somebody who is employed by you have different filing requirements than somebody who is a W-2 employee. But I take issue with this whole idea that W-2 employees are non-hustling and 1099 people are hustlers. Like, hey, wait a second, I'm a W-2 employee and I feel like I hustle.
And I know this 1099 life because Court knows this, but Jen, I don't know if you do. My wife is a 1099 employee for 4 different professional groups in Memphis.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that. Wow.
And boy, tax season is painful, but that's for another day.
Oh, I bet. Well, the latest thing that I hear a lot about, asked a couple times this week, was about people who are doing real estate side hustles, who are doing fix and flips. They're wholesaling a job, wholesaling a deal. Like, for example, let's say there's a house they want to buy. They'll put an offer on the house. They will get the house under contract, and then they'll put funds in escrow. So they'll actually open escrow, and then they'll sell the contract. That's called wholesaling. Now, there's all kinds of rules on wholesaling and making sure things are done properly and transparently, especially when you're involving realtors and brokers and things like that. But when it comes to real estate, it can be a bit of a creative hustle, one that it can be quite sobering considering this is the industry that I am in. So, but real estate isn't the only industry that you can do a side hustle in. There is a young man on Maui who is, I think he's 13 or 14, who is a window washer. And he is such a good window washer. You talk about hustle. I saw him up in Makawao one day recently, and I saw him and I'm going, that person is very young. And he was absolutely in the zone. And I thought, shouldn't he be in school? And I thought, oh yeah, school's out. So, but my point is that he was doing it. He had, you know, how they have the belts and they're hanging all their squeegees and everything off of it. This guy was on it, and I was absolutely amazing. And you could tell it was his passion that he was actually really good at this. But there's so many other industries that you could go into, and it just depends on what your passion is. It depends on how much you want to scare yourself, especially when you're in real estate too. I mean, there's my take on creative side hustles.
I guess you could say side hustle with graphic design, making logos. Some other options would be culinary, like selling cakes or sourdough or cookies. You have online creative hustles, digital courses, Etsy shops, reselling. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Even the influencers, you would have to call that, I guess, a creative, quote unquote, creative side hustle. You know, the people that are TikTokers or that are making videos for YouTube and stuff, that's 1099 income. So, you know, there are options out there.
Yeah, and so to catch our listeners up, we're kind of diving into understanding income at different levels. We hit W-2 incomes, 1099. We just talked about creative hustles, and what is the fourth?
You build something from nothing or very little, I guess.
Like Gary Vee.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like Christopher Gardner. Yeah, no, starting from scratch, starting from nothing, especially when the cost of living is so high, and let's face it, the chances of people who are trying to save money, especially if they're trying to be a first-time home buyer or, you know, young families starting out, the affordability crunch is real. And so this income level, whether you're a 1099 earner or a W-2 earner, in this market, a zero capital side hustle, whether you're selling mugs on eBay that you bought at the garage sale like Gary Vee teaches you, it's tough. But you're trying to start a side hustle with no initial investment. Like, you don't have to buy a sign making machine, for example. You don't have to buy inventory to sell. You're doing it very, very small. And granted, you know, some of these side hustles like Gary Vee's, going to garage sales and looking at mugs, for example. This is his thing. He loves mugs and Legos and different cards and Pokemon cards and things else. And you don't need a lot of money, even if you took $20 or $30 and then you look at what its value is on like an eBay, right? But you got to be careful doing that too, because some people list it high and they don't actually sell it for that. But still, you don't need a whole lot of capital to turn it into a little more, right? You could make $100 in a weekend if you play it right. Yeah. Good stuff.
Well, I'm excited about this part of the show because our title for right now is The Myth of Passive Income. But let's talk about the truth about passive investments. We'll start with real estate examples. If you don't self-manage, then manage your property manager. And Jen, I want you to speak on this because this is like your thing.
Your
well,
wheelhouse,
I self-manage
your
my
bailiwick.
property. It's my wheelhouse. I self-manage our properties. I'm not physically located there, so how do I do that without a property manager? Obviously, I have a team. I have staff there. The staff all work with me, so I don't have a property manager for each property. There are other investments that we're making that is not exactly true. If you want a passive investment, meaning you're not mentally engaged with this real estate investment, then you have to have a property manager. You have to have someone who is going to take that call saying, oh, your toilet is stopped up? Perfect. We'll be over shortly, or a plumber's on its way. Somebody's got to coordinate the logistics. Someone's got to deal with the mischief, and someone's got to deal with the money. That's what you've got to do. And so if you're not going to do that, you want passive income from your rental investments, then somebody else has to do that for you. But then you have to manage them, right? You get what you inspect. And so you can't just let your property manager run wild and do whatever they want, because chances are, if they're not checked, then they're going to not they're not going to align with what you're going to want them to do, or they're going to be spending money that you don't want them to spend. That's typically what happens, right? Or they're letting mischief get out of hand and going, hey, that's causing damage to the property. I don't want you to let, a dog chew the door or the trim, and we need to deal with this type of thing. So there is an engagement level at some time, even if you're not going to self-manage. If you really want passive investments or passive income from your real estate, you still have to be involved. Like, there is still a level of involvement.
Let's talk for a second about what we do at Pickler Wealth Advisors. Well,
sure.
We're financial advisors.
Advisors.
Yeah. So people come to us and they want to invest and they want to see their money grow. You have all sorts of different kinds of people that come in with different sorts of expectations. Those that think that we're going to be, actively calling them on a daily basis to recommend them the newest, hottest stocks and trading and giving them all sorts of advice that way, that expect us to just, here is my money. You go and do. And you have people that want to be very involved in it. They want to call up and make trades daily, and they're watching the stock market and they're looking at the newspaper or whatever. Sorry, I still in my head picture all of the stocks listed on spread open Wall Street Journal. That's how I picture making stock picks still to this day, even though I haven't opened a paper Wall Street Journal in years probably. But anyway, you've got that. You've got people that just want to dump it and see it grow and just reap the benefits. And the truth is that first of all, you're going to have to pick a financial advisor that matches what your desires are. We, as a company, are not timing the market.
Yeah.
We're not
day traders.
We're not day traders. We're not watching the market actively.
If you want a quick buck, don't come to us. I mean, we say is, you think of the tortoise and the hare, that race. We're more like the tortoise.
Yeah.
We may be slow, but we are steady, and we're going to win the race.
But you can definitely find people out there that do offer that kind of service. And of course, there are all sorts of apps where you can just be trading for your own self all you want to. There are the people that offer the kind of service that we offer, where we're really about finding a plan for you to ultimately achieve your life's goals, right? And so we're going to come up with this entire plan. Okay, this is how you can achieve this. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to save. This is how we need to invest it for you to be able to achieve the goals that you have set for yourself and that you've told us you want to achieve. If you invest your money with us, this is what we will do with it, and this is how we will move forward. Even if you find that is the type of service that you want and that is the type of financial advisor you want, you're like, yeah, let's figure out the plan, and then you execute it, and I'll sit back and just, reap the benefits. Again, that's not necessarily really the way this should work. You interact with your advisor. You need to keep an eye on them. So even the income that you might be generating from an investment, say you buy a bond and that bond is going to pay you on a regular basis, or, you buy a stock and that stock is going to grow in value or pay a dividend. You can't just sit back. You have to be involved. It is a joint effort of you and your financial advisor to ultimately reach the goal that you have. And if you're not actively involved, first of all, if you get the wrong financial advisor and you're not paying attention to what they're doing, then you could end up getting hurt. But even if you have the right financial advisor, if you're not meeting with them on a regular basis, as we've said plenty of times before, we have to meet with each one of our clients at least once per year. And some of them we meet more often. But some of them we can't get in touch with. Some of them, they disappear off the face of the earth. That kind of thing that you need to be aware of as an investor. When you give your money to us to invest for you, we don't expect you to just disappear and never talk to us again. We want to interact with you. We want to find out how your life is evolving, what changes are happening, how we need to adjust what we're doing for you. And so we need to hear from you. And we're going to try and contact you, and we hope that you'll contact us. And if that doesn't happen, you're not paying attention to your investments. And so in that sense, even that kind of quote unquote passive income is not passive. You still need to stay involved. I wouldn't just hand us a stack of cash and kick back in your recliner and just wait for it to roll in,
There's actually another aspect to the financial advisor stuff and the passive investments for that. And this is where I go, okay, even though, let's say I'm one of your clients and I want passive investments from Pickler Wealth Advisors, that's great. And I want to make money, and I want to, let's say I have an aggressive or conservative risk appetite, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, is where I'm putting my money aligning with my personal values? If I'm exploiting different countries, or I'm exploiting different things, or I'm helping, let's say, build weapons, or we're helping with things that I don't agree with, that's a problem for me. Some of the ESG factors that go on in finance right now, so environmental, social, and governance, that's kind of how you rate it. At least that's how I've seen it rated before, and with other nonprofits that I'm on the board of, they go, okay, well, where are the ESG factors for this? And so this is yet another aspect of passive investing. It's not actually passive. You have to constantly make sure that the companies that you're investing, or the mutual funds you're investing, or the bonds, or whatever it is you're investing, actually aligns. These companies are actually aligning with what you want to be supporting with your money. So I refuse to make money off of the false labor of someone else, right? Like, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that what we're doing makes sense. I tend to follow a lot of what Warren Buffett says, but not always. But I like brick and mortar stuff. I like Dairy Queen. Really want to make sure that they align. So it's not just the again, set it and forget it mindset with financial investments. It's what's underlying making all that money.
Yeah.
That's what I want to look at.
And
yeah.
even with the lowest risk kind of products that we offer, even if you're talking about something like a money market where it's pretty much a set interest rate that you're going to be earning, you still have to pay attention to it because interest rates change.
Yeah.
Or if you have a CD, obviously you're waiting for that CD to mature, and if you're just not paying any attention and you miss the maturity of the CD, then what happens then? But for instance, we were very big for a while there. Volatility of the market, we were talking a lot about stuff that was relatively low risk, like money markets and stuff like that. But then the Fed started lowering interest rates. And so those money markets that had really great interest rates and had a great return compared to some other investments, all of a sudden their interest rates started dropping. And so you have to, you can't just put it somewhere and walk away from it. Even the low risk stuff, you still have to pay attention to what's going on with interest rates, what's going on with your fees. If you are not earning a sufficient return on that money where you have it to cover the fact that we're at 2.5%, 3% inflation. So your money might be growing at 2%, but if inflation is growing at 3%, then you're losing value. You got to pay attention to all that. That's all I'm saying.
The other thing too, I know there's people that say, okay, well, that's fine. I'll just do a real estate investment. I'll be an LP. I'll be a limited partner in a real estate syndication. If somebody's buying an apartment building and they want to buy, a part of that investment, and so it's basically they're buying shares in the company that owns the building,
right?
And they're non-voting shares, and they are again, everybody thinks it's just it's just set it and forget it. But here's the thing: what's going on in that market? How are they doing the improvements? What's the vacancy or the occupancy of that building? Like how are the assumptions going in this investment? And simple things like, when are your dividends paid? Are they paid quarterly? Are they paid monthly? Are they paid annually? Are they paid a balloon at the end? Like, you've got to kind of still stay engaged here going, hey, wait a minute. You still have to check stuff.
And, another element of that is also, how is your principal returned? Understand
right.
If and when you will get your principal returned to you. Is it at the very end? Is it gradually over the course of the investment return? People sometimes might go into a limited partnership investment and think they're going to get payouts over the course of, say, every quarter for 10 years and then get their principal back at the end of 10 years, when all along they were actually receiving repayment of their principal as they moved along. So at the end
right.
of 10 years, they've got a zero balance left in terms of what they initially invested. There's no principal to pay back at that point. So be aware of all of that stuff too. That might be getting a little bit deep into the weeds. I'm sorry, but that just occurred to me. Be aware of your principal and what is happening with not just with what your principal is earning for you, but also where is your principal? When do you get it back? When can you access it? Are you going to pay penalties if you take it out early? That's always a big thing.
Right.
So you got to be aware of all of that. Watch the assumptions, right? Every investment pitch includes assumptions, returns. Well, like Jen said, what are vacancies? What are the interest rates? What's inflation? Again, not to beat a dead horse, but is your money growing as fast, at least, as the inflation rate is? How long can you expect this return to take? And then
What happens when you assume, Court?
Oh, you
You make an ass of you and me. I feel like I can say that.
yeah.
Yeah, assumptions are where deals get dangerous. I like how it says that. If you don't know what they are, you can't evaluate the risk.
100%. Removed the word assume from my vocabulary when I talk to certain people because you just can't assume. You can't say I assumed. You have to know, you have to confirm. What is it that David Pickler likes to say? Trust but verify.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a quote from
Reagan?
Yeah. Trust but verify.
Absolutely.
Don't assume.
No, absolutely want to check your assumptions with all of this. It's saying, hey, well, I assumed that I was going to get this, or I assumed that I was going to be paying this, or you can't assume that. You absolutely have to check it for yourself. And the biggest thing for me, when we're talking about passive income, don't assume passive income is actually passive. I think that's one of the worst assumptions that you could assume.
Yeah, have the three of us been mythbusters when it comes to passive income? I don't know. That's up to our listeners. But I feel like we've supplied some pretty good information. It's been helpful for me rolling through this.
Well, Jen, you wanna offer a bullseye?
Passive income is not set it and forget it. Don't put your cruise control on the car and just expect to get to your destination without any kind of input. Make sure you are trusting but verifying, or as you can say, delegate but verify.
Yes, and you do have to keep an eye on that. Don't just lay back in your recliner and wait for the checks to hit the mailbox. My bullseye is going to be, thank you very much, Jen, for being a guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe to My Life as a Landlord and keep tuning in to Bullcast as well. Don't forget about us. But yeah, we've really enjoyed this time with Dr. Jen Salisbury. So we appreciate your time. You've been taking a lot of time out of your schedule in the past few weeks to help us fill a gaping hole left by Katie Pickler, who I think will be returning soon. So thank you very much, Jen. It's been such a pleasure having you today and having you all the other days too.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. If anybody wants to learn more about housing in general, whether it's in the US or in Canada, they can join me over at My Life as a Landlord podcast, website, social media handles, everything, all your podcast platforms is My Life as a Landlord. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh, it's been our pleasure, believe me. Oh, there's the closing bell. Ladies and gentlemen, you've made it to the end of yet another episode of the Bullcast Podcast. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, please feel free to go to your favorite subscription service and sign up to have our podcast delivered directly to your device every single Thursday at noon. If you'd like to find out more about Cortland, Katie, Cameron, or Nicole, please feel free to go to our website. That website is bullcastpodcast.com. We've got pictures up there. We've got our bios. We've got a place where you can drop a comment or suggest a topic you'd like to hear us talk more about. But hey, I mentioned pictures. We do have an Instagram handle. That handle is at Bullcast Podcast. And we also have an X handle, which is also at Bullcast Podcast. And rounding out social media, we have a Facebook page. That Facebook page is Bullcast the Podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, I know very explicitly I mentioned the fact that we work at a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors today. If you'd like to find out more about Pickler Wealth Advisors, find out more about us, find out about what we do, find out about what we could do for you, find out about our amazing team, and find out about our boss, David Pickler, please feel free to go to that website. That website is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E. Ladies and gentlemen, we have given you everything you need to go forth and earn passive income, not passively. So for now, I'm Court.
I'm Cam.
And I'm Jen.
Oh, thanks, Jen, and we're done.